Four masked men storm Harborstone Trust Bank on a quiet Tuesday morning. Panic freezes the lobby. Phones drop, whispers die, until a black woman who came earlier to make a simple withdrawal steps forward. With calm eyes and lightning reflexes, she challenges the intruders and turns the entire heist on its head, sweeping them off their feet and shocking everyone who thought they were helpless. Before we dive in, smash subscribe, hit the like button, and comment where you're watching from, because this twist-packed story of courage versus chaos will leave you breathless, and you do not want to miss what happens next. Four masked men stormed Harborstone Trust's Bank on a quiet Tuesday morning. The city outside was just waking up, the streets damp with drizzle, and the commuters were still shaking sleep from their eyes. Inside, everything felt safe, almost sacred. The marble floors gleamed under golden chandeliers. The heavy brass clock ticked softly on the far wall, and customers moved with the quiet rhythm of routine, depositing paychecks, signing forms, withdrawing cash. But in seconds, all of that serenity shattered. The men came in like a storm. Black coats, black gloves, faces hidden behind expressionless masks. They moved with a terrifying precision. No wasted gestures, no hesitation. One shoved the security guard back against the wall before Harris, the guard, even had time to draw his radio. Another kicked the glass door stop into place, locking out the street. A third man slung a heavy black duffel onto the polished floor with a thud, unzipping it to reveal cold steel inside. And the leader, the one whose voice cut through the air like a scalpel, stepped into the center of the lobby and said just 6 words. "Everyone stay calm. Nobody has to die." The effect was instant. A mother clutched her toddler and sank to the floor. An elderly man dropped his checkbook as if it had suddenly become heavy. Phones slipped from sweaty palms, screens flashing helplessly before skittering across the marble. The bank staff froze behind their counters, eyes wide, the hum of computer monitors suddenly deafening in the silence. Fear spread like fire. But in the corner of the bank, near the teller queue, sat a woman who didn't move like the others. She had come early that morning for something simple, a withdrawal, nothing more. She wore a dark blazer, sensible shoes, and carried nothing but a small purse. Her name was Naomi Rivers. To everyone else in the room, she looked like just another customer caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. The robbers thought the same. They were wrong. Naomi's eyes tracked every movement the men made. She noticed how the leader favored his left leg, how the one by the vault door kept checking his watch as though following a countdown, how the tall one near the counter gripped his weapon too tightly, betraying nerves. She saw the perimeter they formed, the box they created, the precision of soldiers disguised as thieves. To the untrained eye, it looked like chaos. To Naomi, it looked like a formation, one she'd studied, drilled, and fought against before. She wasn't supposed to be that woman anymore. She had buried that life. Years of training, years of orders, years of violence. She had walked away from the Marines with nothing but scars and a silver pendant she wore tucked under her blouse. She'd promised herself she'd never go back. But some promises break the moment innocent lives hang in the balance. The leader barked again, louder this time. Phones on the floor. Cashiers. Empty your drawers into the bags. Do it fast. His voice was cold, steady, the kind of voice that demanded obedience. The tellers moved shakily, fumbling with keys and codes. One young man dropped a whole tray of bills, his trembling fingers scattering money across the counter. The robber by the vault snarled, "Move faster, or someone gets hurt." The tension was unbearable. Customers cried softly. A man in a suit muttered a prayer under his breath. The sound of a child's whimper echoed through the grand chamber. Fear was complete, except at Naomi's corner. She didn't pray. She calculated. The robbers hadn't noticed her yet, because they never noticed women like her. Middle-aged, quiet, black, unassuming. They dismissed her as harmless, invisible, and that was their first mistake. Naomi slowly adjusted her seat, her heart pounding but her breathing controlled. She watched the enforcer at the entrance shift his stance. Too heavy on the right foot, slow to pivot. She marked him as the weakest link. The guard, Harris tried to lift his head, only to be slammed back down with the butt of a gun. Naomi's jaw tightened. She could feel the familiar fire rising in her chest, the one she thought she'd buried forever. The leader leaned closer to one of the terrified clerks, his voice low and venomous. "Open the vault. Now." The clerk shook his head. "I can't. It takes 2 keys." His voice cracked. The leader's eyes narrowed behind his mask. "Then get the second." "Don't waste my time." Naomi's pulse quickened. Vault jobs weren't smash and grab. They required planning, coordination. These men weren't random thugs. They were trained. That meant they had backup. It also meant time was limited. If she waited too long, people would die. Her fingers brushed the chain under her blouse, gripping the pendant as if it could steady her. Memories flooded back. Midnight drills, instructors screaming, sand and blood on her palms. The mantra she'd been forced to learn. Hesitation is death. Act, react, control. She whispered it now under her breath. And she exhaled, long and steady. Across the room, the leader barked again. 30 seconds, or I start pulling triggers. A woman screamed. A man dropped flat on the marble, covering his head. The sound of despair cracked through the air. And that was when Naomi Rivers stood. Her chair scraped back against the marble, sharp and sudden, cutting through the chaos like a gunshot. Every masked head turned toward her. The leader's weapon twitched up instantly. "Sit down," he roared. But Naomi didn't sit. She took a single step forward, her eyes cold, her voice steady as iron. "You picked the wrong bank." Gasps rippled through the lobby. Harris, the battered guard, blinked at her in disbelief. Customers clutched one another, torn between terror and a sudden, inexplicable hope. The robbers faltered. For a split second, the perfection of their plan cracked. Not because of police, not because of alarms, but because one woman refused to be afraid. And Naomi, her stance firm, her shoulders squared, her hidden marine past burning its way back to the surface, was just getting started. The leader froze for half a breath at Naomi's defiance. The sound of her chair scraping back still echoed against the marble walls, sharp as a warning bell. His gun leveled on her chest, the barrel gleaming under the chandelier's light. Around them, the hostages held their breath, their eyes flicking between the masked men and the lone black woman standing tall. "Sit down." His words came like a growl, slow and threatening. Naomi didn't move. She tilted her chin slightly, her eyes fixed on him like she was reading every angle of his stance. Calm, cold, calculating. The silence was suffocating. Then she smiled. A small, sharp smile that shouldn't have existed in a moment like this. "I told you," she said evenly, "you picked the wrong bank." The tall Robert near the teller scoffed, his voice muffled under his mask. "Boss, she's just a civilian. Let me handle this." He strode toward Naomi, weapon loose in his hand, overconfident. His boots echoed against the marble as he closed the distance. Naomi's muscles coiled like steel wires. She didn't blink. The man raised his gun halfway, gesturing at her like she was nothing more than an inconvenience. "Get back." She moved. It wasn't hesitation. It wasn't reckless. It was lightning. Naomi stepped inside his guard in a blur, her left hand snapping the weapon's barrel skyward as her right palm slammed into his mask with brutal force. The crack echoed. His head snapped back, balance gone. Before the others even registered the movement, Naomi pivoted, driving her elbow hard into his throat. The man gagged, choking for air. One smooth twist, and she wrenched the gun free, flipping it to her own grip. First robber down. The hostages gasped in shock, a wave of hope breaking through their terror. "Take her!" The leader barked, his calm shattered. The 2 other enforcers lunged. Naomi dropped low, just as the second man charged. She swept her leg across the marble, catching his shin and sending him crashing forward. His skull smacked the floor with a sickening thud. Before he could recover, she kicked the dropped pistol across the lobby, far out of his reach. The third robber came from the side, heavier, faster, gun already raised. Naomi ducked behind a teller counter as the shot ripped through the polished wood. Splinters exploded in a shower of dust. Customers screamed, bodies flattening against the floor. Naomi's heart hammered, but her mind was clear. She leaned out, fired one precise shot. Not to kill, but to disarm. The bullet struck the robber's pistol, knocking it from his grip. The weapon clattered across the marble, spinning into the shadows near the vault door. The man roared, rushing at her with bare fists. Naomi met him head-on, her movements sharp and clinical. A knee to his gut, an uppercut to the jaw. He staggered, stunned, and she shoved him back into a row of chairs. They collapsed with a crash, the sound reverberating like a drumbeat of defiance. Now all eyes were on her. The leader snarled, mask twitching as he clenched his jaw. He motioned for the last scout to hold his position by the vault, unwilling to thin their defense. His voice, however, cracked with fury. "Who the hell are you?" Naomi's chest rose and fell steadily, the stolen pistol firm in her grip. She took a single step forward, eyes locked on his. "The woman who's going to end this." Whispers rippled through the hostages. Some clutched each other. Some dared to raise their heads. The guard, Harris, coughed blood from his lip and muttered hoarsely, "Dear God, she's a fighter." The leader recalibrated quickly. He was no fool. He saw now that Naomi wasn't just a civilian. Her stance screamed training. Her movements weren't lucky. They were practiced, rehearsed, lethal. He raised his hand to his men. "Form up." The three conscious robbers regrouped, forming a triangle with the leader at the apex. Their guns rose in unison. For a split second, the lobby froze, three barrels pointed at one woman. Naomi's eyes darted across the room, cataloging cover, angles, hostages. Her marine instincts blazed alive. She needed to break their line. Then she saw it, the cash trolley. A metal cart stacked with bags of bills, left abandoned in the chaos. In one fluid motion, Naomi shoved her shoulder into the trolley, sending it rolling across the marble. The wheels screeched, bags tumbling, cash spilling like green confetti. The sudden movement drew the robbers' eyes and split their aim. Naomi seized the gap. She dived behind a column, bullets shattering marble inches from her shoulder. The hostages screamed again, but their eyes followed her with desperate hope. From cover, Naomi fired two sharp rounds. One struck the chandelier above, showering sparks and crystal shards down on the men. Another slammed into the floor just before their boots, forcing them to step back. Disoriented, one robber slipped. Naomi lunged from the column, slammed into him with a shoulder strike, and ripped his mask off. His stunned eyes went wide as her fist smashed into his jaw, sending him sprawling, unconscious. "Two left," the leader snarled. "She's ex-military." His voice betrayed the first hint of fear. Naomi didn't deny it. She leveled her weapon, eyes blazing. "You have no idea what I am." The heavier robber roared, charging in desperation. Naomi sidestepped, gripped his arm, and twisted with brutal precision. A sharp crack echoed as his shoulder dislocated, and he collapsed with a howl. Now it was just her and the leader. The room held its breath. Hostages stared, paralyzed, hearts pounding. The chandelier flickered above them, shards glittering on the floor. The leader steadied his aim at her chest. "You're not walking out of here alive." Naomi tilted her head slightly, calm fire in her eyes. "Neither are you, if you pull that trigger." The standoff stretched, thick as storm clouds. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing closer. The leader's eyes flicked toward the doors, toward the vault, calculating escape. Naomi saw it, hesitation. And hesitation was death. She surged forward, faster than his reflex. The gunshot exploded, deafening in the marble chamber, but Naomi had already twisted his wrist aside. The bullet slammed harmlessly into the ceiling. She rammed her knee into his gut, wrenching the pistol from his hand. With a swift pivot, she slammed him against the marble column, forearm pressed to his throat. The leader gasped, rage burning in his eyes, but Naomi's voice cut through with lethal finality. "You thought this was your stage," she hissed, "but it's mine now." The crowd erupted, some crying, some cheering, as if they'd just witnessed the impossible. The sirens outside grew louder, police swarming toward the glass doors. But Naomi knew this wasn't over. The leaders still had plans, still had men unaccounted for, and the vault, whatever was inside it, was the true target. This was only the beginning, and Naomi Rivers was ready for the storm still to come. The sound of sirens outside the Harborstone Trust Bank grew louder, echoing against the glass facade. Red and blue lights flickered faintly through the high windows, but inside the marble atrium, time seemed frozen. The hostages crouched on the floor, clinging to each other, their eyes darting between Naomi Rivers, standing tall, breathing hard, pistol firm in her hand, and the masked leader pinned against the column. The man's mask had slipped halfway, revealing a jaw clenched tight with fury. Even beaten back, he radiated a dangerous calm. Naomi pressed harder on his throat with her forearm. "Why the vault?" she demanded. "This isn't about cash." The leader smirked despite the pressure. "You're smarter than you look." His voice rasped, strained but still venomous. "This isn't about money. It's about leverage." Naomi's gut tightened. She had suspected it. Vault jobs were never about petty theft. These men were professionals, trained, disciplined, coordinated. They weren't here to grab stacks of bills. They were here for something else, something specific. From the corner of her eye, Naomi caught a flicker of movement. One of the injured enforcers, his shoulder still twisted from her takedown, dragged himself across the marble toward the vault corridor. His other hand clutched a small black device, wires snaking from its side. Explosives. Naomi's pulse spiked. If they got that device onto the vault door, the whole lobby could become a killing field. She shoved the leader away and spun. 2 quick strides, a sharp kick. The device clattered from the enforcer's grip, sliding across the floor. Naomi scooped it up, fingers wrapping around the cold, metal weight. She flipped it over, military-grade shape charge, compact and deadly. The kind she'd seen used overseas to rip open armor convoys. Her jaw set. "Who gave you this?" she barked, hurling the device out of reach. It skidded across the marble until it smacked into a pillar. The leader straightened, adjusting his mask, his voice cutting low. "Doesn't matter. All you need to know is that what's inside that vault doesn't belong to Harborstone. It belongs to the world we work for. And trust me, this is bigger than your little hero act." Naomi's eyes narrowed. She'd heard that tone before. The arrogance of mercenaries who believed themselves untouchable because of the power behind them. He wasn't just a thief. He was a contractor, someone hired by men who could topple corporations with a pen stroke. From the teller counter, a terrified clerk whispered, "The Phoenix Key." His voice cracked. "That's what they're after." Naomi's head snapped toward him. "What?" The clerk swallowed hard, sweat streaking his temples. It's a prototype, a drive. Encrypted tech that can override satellite codes. Mr. Halden brought it here last week. Management locked it in the vault. Said it was safer here than anywhere else. The Phoenix Key. Naomi felt the words like ice in her blood. A device like that wasn't just valuable. It was catastrophic. In the wrong hands, it could black out communication systems, reroute drones, even hijack financial networks. It was a weapon without bullets. And these men were here to take it. Naomi cursed under her breath. She didn't have minutes anymore. She had seconds. The leader barked to his remaining men. "Forget the cash. We get the key. Secure the vault." The 2 enforcers moved immediately, one dragging himself up despite his limp, the other covering him with his pistol. They advanced toward the vault corridor, determination burning through their injuries. Naomi sprinted to intercept. The marble floor thundered under her boots as she closed the gap. She launched herself into the first enforcer, slamming her shoulder into his ribs. The air burst from his lungs as he toppled sideways into a row of chairs. His pistol clattered away. The second swung at her with the butt of his gun, aiming for her temple. Naomi ducked, the strike whistling past her ear. She grabbed his wrist mid-swing, twisted sharply, and drove her knee into his gut. His gun dropped. She kicked it across the floor and rammed him back into the vault door. He groaned but tried to fight back. Naomi's fist snapped into his jaw once, twice. Then a brutal elbow to his temple finished the job. His body slumped, sliding down the steel. The vault loomed before her now, a massive steel door with intricate gears and a glowing biometric panel. It wasn't just a safe. It was a fortress. And yet, with the right explosives or the right codes, it could be opened. Naomi turned, pistol raised, scanning the lobby. The leader stood tall again, mask tilted, rage crackling off him. He had recovered, and now his eyes locked on her like a hawk on prey. "You can fight, Marine," he sneered, "but you can't stop what's coming. Reinforcements are on the way. We're not leaving without the Phoenix key." Naomi steadied her breath. The word Marine struck like a slap. He knew. Somehow he knew her past. Her fingers tightened on the pistol. "Then you're leaving in cuffs? Or not at all?" The leader laughed, low and cruel. "You think you've won? You just slowed us down." He gestured with a sharp nod to the windows. Naomi glanced, and her stomach dropped. Outside, through the rain-slick glass, two black SUVs screeched to a halt at the curb. More masked men spilled out, armed and ready, moving with the same terrifying discipline. Reinforcements. The hostages cried out. A woman clutched her child, sobbing. Harris, the guard, whispered a prayer. The bank was about to become a war zone. Naomi inhaled deeply, her mind racing. She had no backup, no squad, no command chain. Just herself, a pistol, and a room full of civilians. But that had always been enough. She had trained for worse. She had survived worse. And she wasn't about to let Harborstone Trust fall to men who thought fear was power. She moved quickly, barking orders with a voice sharp as steel. "Everyone down. Stay low. Behind the counters. Move now." The hostages scrambled, adrenaline surging, obeying her voice without question. She turned to Harris. "You, help me bar the doors." Together they shoved a heavy oak table against the main entrance, just as the first SUV enforcer reached for the handle. The impact rattled the glass, but the barricade held, for now. Naomi spun, breath heaving, eyes on the vault and the leader. The sirens outside were almost drowned by the pounding in her chest. This wasn't just a robbery anymore. It was war. And Naomi Rivers, Marine turned civilian, was done hiding from her past. She squared her shoulders, pistol steady, and whispered to herself the mantra she'd buried years ago. Hesitation is death. Act. React. Control. The battle for Harborstone Trust had only just begun. The oak table rattled against the glass doors as fists and rifle butts pounded from the outside. Reinforcements had arrived, their black masks gleaming in the rain, their bodies moving with the brutal efficiency of wolves closing in. Inside Harborstone Trust, the air was electric, fear crackling like static in every corner of the marble atrium. Naomi Rivers stood at the center of it all. Her blazer was torn at the shoulder, her breath ragged, but her eyes were steady, cold, and burning with the focus of someone who had faced storms worse than this and survived. She tightened her grip on the pistol, her knuckles white against the steel. Behind her, hostages cowered behind counters and overturned desks. Harris, the wounded guard, pressed a bloody rag to his forehead while bracing the barricade with what little strength he had left. A mother whispered into her child's ear, "It's going to be okay," though her trembling voice betrayed her. Naomi didn't let her gaze waver. Not once. The leader, mask half torn, leaned against a column, chest heaving. He sneered. "You can fight, Marine, but you're outnumbered. My men are coming in. When they do, this room becomes a graveyard." Naomi's jaw clenched. The word Marine lit a fire in her veins. She had buried that name once, buried it beneath years of civilian quiet. But tonight, it rose from the ashes, burning hotter than the fear in the hostage's eyes. She stepped toward him, voice sharp as a blade. "Then we hold the line." The first SUV enforcers smashed through the glass with a crash of rain and shards. They spilled inside like a flood, rifles raised. Naomi moved before anyone else could blink. She rolled across the marble, firing two sharp shots. One struck a rifle clean from its owner's hands. The other hit the chandelier pulley, dropping a cascade of crystal shards and sparks onto the advancing men. They stumbled, blinded, as screams echoed through the chamber. "Harris down," Naomi shouted. The guard dropped flat as Naomi shoved the overturned cash trolley into the barricade, reinforcing it for just a few more seconds. Every tick of the brass clock above felt like a heartbeat closer to chaos. The leader roared, "Push through. Take the vault." His remaining enforcers surged forward, guns spitting fire. Bullets cracked marble, shredded wood, sparked off metal. Hostages screamed. Naomi's body moved like memory, rolling, ducking, firing. Her training came alive. Act, react, control. She slid across the floor, scooping up the pistol she'd kicked away earlier. Dual-wielding now, she unleashed a controlled storm of fire. Not killing, but disarming, disabling, driving her enemies into mistakes. One man dropped clutching his shattered knee. Another spun as a shot ripped the mask from his face. But they kept coming. Naomi's chest heaved. Sweat slicked her temples. She grabbed a steel stanchion, the kind used to hold velvet ropes, and swung it like a staff, cracking it across the jaw of a charging enforcer. He fell with a grunt, sprawling unconscious across scattered bills. Another rushed her from the side. Naomi pivoted, slammed her elbow into his ribs, then spun, kicking him square in the chest. He flew back into the teller counter, wood splintering under the impact. The lobby was worn now, shattered glass, smoke from gunfire, the stench of fear and sweat. And still, the vault loomed. Naomi's stomach twisted when she saw one enforcer crawling, clutching the small-shaped charge she'd tossed away earlier. His trembling hands inched it toward the vault door. "No!" Naomi sprinted. She dove, slamming into him shoulder first. The device skittered away. With one brutal punch, she silenced him. She grabbed the explosive, breathing hard, then hurled it out through the broken window into the rain-soaked street. It detonated harmlessly against the asphalt, a thunderclap that shook the block but spared the bank. The crowd of hostages gasped, hope flickering again. The leader bellowed, his calm finally gone. He drew a hidden blade from his belt and charged Naomi directly. She turned, eyes locking on him as time seemed to slow. Their clash was inevitable, the final collision of predator and storm. He swung the knife with deadly precision, aiming for her throat. Naomi ducked, catching his wrist mid-swipe. Their bodies slammed together, locked in a vicious struggle. His strength was raw, fueled by rage, but Naomi's was cold, controlled, born of discipline. She twisted his wrist, the blade flashing dangerously close to her cheek, before slamming his arm against the marble column. Bone cracked. The knife clattered to the floor. The leader snarled, spitting blood. "You should have stayed invisible." Naomi's voice was low, steady, lethal. "You should have picked another bank." Her knee drove into his gut. Her fist smashed into his jaw. Finally, with one decisive move, she hooked his arm, flipped him over her shoulder, and slammed him flat onto the marble. His body went limp, his mask skidding away. Silence. The remaining reinforcements froze, their leader broken at Naomi's feet. Some still gripped their rifles, but their eyes darted nervously. The hostages, trembling and wide-eyed, stared at Naomi like she was carved from steel. Outside, the siren screamed louder. SWAT teams swarmed, storming through the shattered glass. Shouts filled the lobby as armed officers rushed in, weapons drawn, clearing corners. In seconds, they overwhelmed the last of the stunned robbers, cuffing them with practiced precision. It was over. Naomi stood tall, chest heaving, pistol dangling loosely in her hand. Around her, the marble lobby was wrecked. Broken glass, splintered wood, scattered bills, the acrid tang of smoke. But the hostages were alive. The vault stood sealed. The Phoenix key was safe. Harris staggered to his feet, bloodied but grinning. "Ma'am," he rasped, voice shaking. "Who are you?" Naomi slid her pistol onto the counter, straightening her torn blazer. For a long moment, she said nothing. Her hand brushed the silver pendant at her chest, the one reminder of the life she'd buried. Then she looked at Harris, her eyes steady. Just someone who refuses to let fear win. SWAT officers rushed past her, securing the vault, herding the shaken hostages toward the exit. Reporters were already swarming outside, cameras flashing in the rain. Naomi ignored them. She walked calmly through the glass doors, into the storm, head high. The city would call her a hero. The news would call her a savior. But Naomi Rivers knew the truth. She wasn't a symbol. She wasn't a legend. She was simply a soldier who had once promised herself she'd never be a victim again. And today, she'd kept that promise. As thunder rolled across the skyline, Naomi disappeared into the rain, leaving behind a story the city would never forget. The day one black woman stood against an army and won. And that was the day Harborstone Trust's quiet Tuesday morning became the battlefield for survival. 4 masked robbers came to steal power, and more reinforcements stormed in to finish the job. But what they never expected was that one black woman, just there to make a withdrawal, would rise, unleash a hidden marine past, and turn their perfect plan into utter chaos. Her courage saved dozens of lives, protected a weapon worth more than money itself, and reminded us all that sometimes the hero is the person you least expect. Before you scroll away, smash that subscribe button, tap the bell icon, and comment where you're watching from, because stories like this only get more intense from here. And trust me, the next one will shock you even more.